James Nottingham telling an abridged version of A Squash and a Squeeze, written by Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler.
Once upon a time, there was this little old lady. And this little old lady was rocking backwards and forwards in her armchair in her lovely little cottage. And she looks around her little house and she thinks out loud, I've got a lovely little house. You repeat after me.
I've got a lovely little house.
But I wish it was bigger.
But I wish it was bigger.
So she wobbles out of the house. You can stay where you are, but wobble as if you're walking down to the market to meet 3 old, wise men who are sat scratching their big, long, grey beards. And little old lady says, "Excuse me, wise old men.
Excuse me, wise old men.
My house is a bit of a squash and a squeeze."
My house is a bit of a
Squash and a squeeze.
squash and a squeeze.
Will you help me, please?
Will you help me, please?
And the wise old men say, we know exactly what you need.
We know exactly what you need.
You need some chickens.
You need some chickens.
She says, some chickens?
Some chickens!
And the wise old men say, yes, some chickens.
Yes, some chickens.
So she wobbles down to the market rather confused and she buys herself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chickens. Now, the little old lady, she's going to take the chickens back to her house and let the chickens flap around and squawk. So, when I say go, you can flap and squawk. You are going to be pulling out your hair. Eventually, you'll shout, stop! At which point, all the chickens stop. Okay? Got this? So, the wise old men say you need some chickens, so she wobbles further into the market. She buys herself these chickens and go! She goes out the house, down to the market. Go back to there. And she goes down to see the wise old men and she says, excuse me, wise old men.
Excuse me, wise old man.
My house was a squash and a squeeze.
My house was a squash and a squeeze.
But then you told me to buy chickens and now it feels even worse.
Now you told me to buy chickens and now it feels even worse.
Will you help me, please?
Will you help me, please?
And the wise old men say, we know exactly what you need.
We know exactly what you need.
You need some goats.
You need some goats.
She says, some goats. And they say, yes, some goats. So she goes and buys herself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goats. Now, goats, this is your little goatee beard that you have. You know, they have these little goatee beards. And there's your ears, like that, the little pointy ears. Excellent. And, you know, goats sound a bit like sheep, don't they? So, going to take these goats back to the house, and the goats are going to be running around whilst the chickens are flapping around. Don't need to move. You just need to sit there and flap, okay? And she's going to pull out her hair. Eventually, she's going to shout, stop, in a nice, loud, deep voice. Not the screech, because I don't think we heard it last time. Ready? Steady? Go! Perfect. So she goes out the house down to the market. Oi, old men.
Oi, old man.
Notice she's not calling them wise anymore. My house was a squash and a squeeze.
My house was a squash and a squeeze.
Then you told me to buy chickens and goats and now it feels even worse.
You told me to buy chickens and goats and now it feels even worse.
This is your last chance. Will you help me, please?
This is your last chance. Would you please help me?
And the wise old men go, we know exactly what you need.
We know exactly what you need.
You need some cows.
Cows?
Yes, some cows.
So she goes into the market. Now, cows, if you could kneel up for me, please. Kneel up like this and then lean over. And these are your udders.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. You know the udders where the milk comes from? These are your udders. No, you haven't got any udders yet. You need udders. Come on, cows have udders. Come on. And you go, meh, meh, like this. Now the cows are going to run around the house and you just stay where you are. Same for the goats. You just up around on the spot. Chickens flap around on the spot. You're going to pull out your hair, but let them go for a bit longer. Ready, steady, go! Wait, no, not yet. Just let them go. Keep going. Now stop. Okay, so she goes out the house, down to the market. Oi!
Oi, old man!
This is getting silly now.
This is getting silly now.
My house was a squash and a squeeze.
My house was a Christmas tree.
Then you told me to buy chickens, goats and cows, and now it feels even worse.
You told me to buy chickens, goats, and cows, and now it feels even
This
worse.
is your final chance. Will you help me, please?
This is your final, last, very, very last chance. Will you please help me, please?
The wise old men. We know exactly what you
You
need.
know exactly what you need.
You need to sell your chickens and goats and cows.
The chickens, the goats, and cows.
She says, sell my chickens and goats and cows. I've only just bought my chickens and goats and cows.
Sell my chickens and goats and cows. I just bought my chickens and goats and cows.
Well, said the old men, that's what you need to do.
Well, that's what you need to do.
So, rather reluctantly, she goes back to the house. She takes the chickens and sells them. Wave goodbye to the chickens. She gets the goats. Wave goodbye to the goats.
Bye-bye,
She
goats.
sells the cows. Wave goodbye to the cows. She goes back to her house. She sits in a rocking chair and rocks backwards and forwards. And she listens to the silence. And she thinks to herself, I've got a lovely little cottage.
I got a lovely little cottage.
I think I shall stay here for the rest of my life.
I think I shall stay here for the rest of my life.
And they all lived.
Happily ever after!
Round of applause, everybody. Excellent.